Cool. Let's kick it off. So, thank you for joining the podcast today. Really happy to have you. And for those of you who will either be watching this later on YouTube or watching now, um, I've been working with Taylor for the last few months. Actually, did a collaboration with a couple buddies of mine, and he actually mixed the track, and I didn't know who it was, and I heard it, and it was dope, and then we just kind of connected. We've been doing projects ever since. So he's very knowledgeable in the local music community. Definitely follow his band, Refractions, correct?
Yeah,
And is that what is the handle for that on Instagram so they can follow you?
that's at Refractions Official. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, that's it.
Refractions official. Follow it or get the fuck off this. No, I'm just kidding. Follow it, please, and thank you. Namaste. All right, so let's kick it off. So we're gonna hit some talking points that we've already gone over, and then we'll have a few minutes for some Q&A. So talk to me about the best way to send stems. So I know, and maybe you can explain what that means to the layman. What does it mean to send stems, and why is that important?
So sending stems to a mixing engineer is, especially now when you're working from home or from a separate studio from whoever is going to be mixing your project. Sending stems is important, and it can be very good or very bad. What we usually look for are hold on, let me pull up my notes again.
Zooming on the phone.
Yeah. All right. So for stems for drums, um, one thing I'd recommend for drummers to avoid is comping all of their drum parts, like um, each mic track. Mixing engineer, it'll make the engineer's life way easier if you send every mic track that was recorded for your drum parts. This just makes it easier to edit, and just in case there's any like unwanted background noise in certain tracks or whatever. And
Can I ask you about that for a second?
yes, sir.
You're talking about like if you have multiple snare mics, like a top snare mic and a bottom snare mic, you don't want the drummer to bounce them down to one track and send you that. You want them to send both the top and the bottom mic as individual tracks, right?
Yes.
Okay.
It makes it way easier to edit that way and mix.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify. That makes sense. That's a good point.
So, you prefer the tracks mix a certain way, but don't pre-mix them, correct?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay. Oh, wow. So, I think we're gonna have to start a new Zoom meeting. So, sorry, but I don't think that's gonna affect the stream at all. I'm just gonna have to grab a new link. So, give me 1 second.
True.
Okay.
Are
Sorry,
we live right now?
we are.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's not gonna end the stream. It's just gonna, you know what? Fuck it. Hang on a second. Keep going. Keep going. So, yeah,
Yeah.
the
So
pre-mixed tracks. Talk about that a little bit.
Cool. Yeah.
I've dealt with pre-mixed tracks a lot. I do, we were talking about this before the stream. I do a lot of work, like freelance work over the internet. People will hire me to play drums and I'll send them drum tracks. And sometimes they want me to mix the drums myself. And other times they want
Yeah.
completely dry, edited drums. So if you're ever working with a mixing engineer like Taylor, you generally don't want to put anything on the tracks because
Oh
the
yeah.
engineer is going to have his own vision of how he wants it to sound. And so if you pre-mix it, you may be adding something in that he doesn't like and that doesn't suit his vision, and you're just making his job harder. So if you hired him to mix the drums, then let him mix the drums. Don't put anything
Yeah.
on them.
That's a good point. Like any reverb that you might like or any EQ that you prefer, just take it all off. Completely dry tracks
Yeah.
are the optimum, whatever.
Yeah, you can
That was
always
hard
add
for
effects, but you can't take them away, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was hard for me to accept when I first started working on Fiverr. Like like when I first learned how to mix when I was younger and learned how to, EQ and compress and things, it blew my mind how much better it made drums sound. Like it just unmixed drums just sound
True.
10 times worse than mixed drums. And it almost made me feel bad to send unmixed drums to clients that requested it because it just did not sound as good. The kick drum is super boxy and the snare drum has so much at 400 hertz and et cetera, et cetera. And so there were a couple of times where I sent like some slightly EQ'd tracks to people, even when they requested unmixed drums, just because it made me feel bad because this is like my snare drum I didn't think my snare drum sounded good, Don't do
true.
that. Don't do that. The engineers, they know what they're doing, and so you really don't want to try to mess with it unless they specifically ask you to, even if it makes you feel bad.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about gear. So we talked about a couple different options for like a starter and like what everything you need. So just give us like the rundown. Like as a new drummer, what are the pieces of gear that I need to acquire, and how much should I budget for that?
Okay. Yeah. So let's say you're a drummer, you're wanting to start recording. Let's assume you already have a computer. So we'll just take that off the list.
Okay.
Well, what you're going to want is the most important piece of gear you're going to look into is an interface with, I'd say, at least 4 for a very basic drum recording, 4 inputs, 4 mic inputs, and anything like a Focusrite, they have pretty good preamps for their price points. I know the 4i4, they usually start around like 300 or 400 or something.
Okay.
For that interface. And your mics, you're going to want to buy a mic set to record your drum set. And there are some companies like Shure that offer like mic bundles for a cheaper price that you can get. I don't remember what bundle. I'm not going to look into it right now, but there are some around like 800, I'd say.
There's a Shure one that I think is 8, and there's a set. The one that I bought was a Samson that was only like 250 or something, and that came with actually 2 condenser mics as well.
Nice, yeah. That'd be perfectly fine for a beginner drummer wanting to record their own drums.
Awesome.
And yeah, aside from that, just cables. Put aside money for cables and stands, and that's all I can come up with.
Yeah, it can be a big job, like to really record drums properly.
Yeah.
You don't have to have the $10,000 setup with the Neve preamps and all of that
Exactly.
stuff. All of that stuff is cool, but what Taylor's talking about is like a basic 4 mic setup, which would probably, I'm assuming you mean like a left overhead, right overhead kick and snare. So you probably mic the top of the snare, and then probably right on the outside of the kick drum, and then above the left crash cymbal, and then above the right cymbal. And you can get a good drum sound from that if you're
definitely get by.
Actually, it's funny that you say that because the track that Taylor's mixing for me will be mixing as soon as all the people involved in the collab are done. It was just a kick mic and an overhead. That's it.
Yeah.
And you actually did a fantastic job of pulling the sounds apart from one another, even though there was one mic capturing the snare, hi-hat, and one mic capturing the kick. So that, I didn't make it easy on you, but you did really well with it. So I'm excited to hear the finished product.
Can I ask you about that? I know this is not in our list of questions, but I'm really interested, Taylor, because I do a lot of mixing myself, but like I'm primarily a drummer. So I'm really interested to hear from like a full engineer's perspective of how, in the situation that Jeff is talking about, where you've only got, like 2 mics, how you would go about separating the instruments in the mix, like what he's talking about.
It's pretty simple. You just cut. So like say you want to separate a kick from a track, right. I would just, it's kind of I don't know a word for it, but I would just duplicate the track and just EQ out everything else besides the kick, like 150 down, 150 hertz down, anywhere where that kick is going to be. And sometimes I boost it there as well, just to emphasize it more if it is buried in the track already.
Right.
Hello, Mara. Welcome to the stream.
Goes for like snare.
Yeah, that's interesting. I've watched a lot of YouTube videos about stuff like that, and I just find it really, really fascinating how people can use, clever equalization techniques to like actually separate, stuff from a single mic. You could duplicate what he's talking about,
yeah,
guys.
Definitely.
Taking like just a kick track, or just an overhead track, and then duplicating it so you have the exact same track twice, and then completely EQing out anything below maybe 150 to 200 hertz for one mic, and then treat that as like the overheads. And then the other one, EQ out everything above and treat that one as the kick, and
Actually,
then you can kind of artificially have two microphones, and I think that's really, really cool.
Hi, Mike. How's it going? Welcome. It's funny because I sent Taylor all this shit, and Nick's gonna come on in a couple minutes, and it's probably the same way where it's just like, what the fuck, man? What are you sending me? But I have my E-kit at my house, but I didn't have it set up to be an E-kit yet. So it just had these silent stroke heads onto these mesh heads, and I was doing a play along with somebody else, and this motherfucker right here pulled the tom sound out. He pulled the tones out so you could hear what I was playing. Where it was basically like I was playing on practice pads.
Man, that's cool.
And the other guy was playing on an E-kit, and I was like, wow, this is trash. But my studio was closed down because of Corona, so I couldn't even I couldn't play it. And the dude somehow, you EQ'd it. I don't know. You put your magic on it, and it brought my mix up. And I didn't really have any mics. I think it was through. Well, maybe it was through the EAD10, right? I sent you a one track. Yeah. I sent you one stereo track, and he was able to bring out the toms or whatnot. So
that's really cool.
So our Zoom is going to end in about 60 seconds. So let's go ahead and go over our last talking point here and hit it real quick. I think you said, I want to talk about your page. So what's your handle again for your band, and what's your personal handle? How can people reach out to you, ask more questions, hook you up with some work and some mixing?
All right, yeah. I'm the guitarist in Refractions, and our Instagram handle is @RefractionsOfficial. And I think that's it for Facebook and everything else too, probably. But my personal Instagram is a kitchen couch.
Word.
Yeah. And anybody can DM me through there. Any questions, just holler, and I can get to you as soon as I can,
Hey, I made it.
Hey, sorry, that was on me. I switched to, I guess when you switch, you got to start a whole new Zoom or something. I don't know, but we got it.
That's okay. It's okay.
So for those of you on or watching on YouTube later, this is my buddy Nick from Iowa, coming live and direct from Cedar Rapids. So he's going to talk about some mixing things, sound engineer. Before we get started, can you talk about your business? How do people find you? What is your handle? All that kind of stuff, so people know how to reach out.
Yeah, we're very local to Cedar Rapids / Marion area, but we do some like online mixing and stuff. So you can check us out on Facebook. It's just Wolfpack Productions. That's the handle. We have an Instagram too, but we never check that. But yeah, if you want to reach out to us, that's the best place to get to us. But yeah, I've been doing this for, I don't know, about 5 years now. Hasn't been too terribly long. I've been in bands since I was 15 and just started doing my own thing. And then I joined Nail the Mix, this thing that Joey did, Sturgis. And that's basically when my career started to develop into actually taking on clients. So I'm just like 100% self-taught through YouTube and Nail the Mix.
Excellent. Cool. Well, let's kick it off. So we got some talking points we prepped here. So let's talk about samples. We talked about triggers a couple weeks ago. Nick and I did. What is your theory and opinion on sampling drums?
For me personally, I think that the end product is really what that's what people are going to listen to anyway. So I think that if your source material isn't the greatest, which I would assume a lot of novice people are going to be at, I think that your best bet is to really put some money towards sampling. I mean, you've got so many options with sampling, from like Steven Slate to Easy Drummer, Superior Drummer, Get Good Drums. There's so many options out there where the best of the best are playing these things on the best of the best equipment. And why would you not want to use that when, like, we're in such a digital age now? You can use something that sounds probably a lot better than what you're going to be able to do. And that my theory is that I'm going to use those things, those tools that we have. Yeah, you wrote the song, you played the stuff, but I'm going to go through and basically sample over those. Maybe not 100%. Maybe it would be a blend of something, but sometimes when you're working with that stuff, you have phase issues and just all sorts of wonkiness. But yeah, I'm a big proponent of using any sort of VST that sounds excellent. And that's and like the other thing that's great about a VST too is, like, you might have, like, Jeff, I know you have about 2 kits, right? 2 live kits that you could use.
Not anymore, but yeah.
Well, yeah, okay. So
I sold one earlier today, actually. So now I'm down to 1. Yeah.
So you got the 1 kit, right? Well,
yeah.
When you go with VST, you've got hundreds of kits. Now, some of them are garbage. That's going to happen. It's not going to fit your play style, but there's going to be a lot that do. I mean, now, I know you're a big.
What's a VST? What do you for those of listening that don't know what that means?
I believe it's called a virtual studio instrument. Like, I don't know what the T stands for, but it's a virtual tool, or I think it's virtual studio tool.
Okay. So a VST could be a snare, it could be a kick, it could be a cymbal, it could be an open hi-hat, it could be any of that shit.
Those are just drum samples. Like, a VST is everything, any sort of virtual studio tool that you would use, like, as a compressor.
Oh, okay, like EQ,
it's
reverb.
A plug-in, any kind of plug-in.
Okay, got it.
Yep, because I mean, yeah, like Nick just chimed in there. It's VST is just one type of thing, because there's like AUX and something else that like Mac uses and Pro Tools use, but it's a plugin. That's the easiest way.
Okay. So we talked with Taylor about budget. So I know that we talked about this a little bit yesterday, but as a drummer on social media, can you give us a couple of options, like, as far as what to buy? Like, how do I need to get started recording drums so I could, like, make tracks or be able to send you stuff and make your job easier as the engineer?
Yeah, if we're talking like just solely like remotely, like you're like, and now with COVID, that's probably the best option. But if in a case like Jeff, you and I are buddies, we've talked about this forever. But to everyone else that's not listening, I've walked Jeff through a lot of this stuff before. Budget interface. The 18i20, it's $500 and it gets you 8 preamps.
That's what I have. I love it.
That's what I have too. Yep.
It's probably the best budget interface in the game right now. One thing that I will say that might rival that right now, and this is for more of people who are going to be using it for more than just in studio stuff, but the Behringer XR18, I have one of those too. And that's a digital mixer that's also used as an interface. And it has 18 Midas preamps in it, or 16 preamps and then 2. Aux. That doesn't. Yeah, exactly. So you got 16 inputs on that, as opposed to just the 8, XLRs on the 18i20.
So you can plug in the entire drum kit, and you can plug in all the guitars, the bass, the vocals, everything. And then you said, because it's got its own onboard network, that you can control your in-ears from your phone using an app, correct?
Correct. There are 6.
Which is dope, from the practice room or whatnot.
Yeah, there are 6 auxiliary outs on it.
What up, Justin? How you doing? Just saying hi to somebody. Go ahead.
Yeah. So there's 6 auxiliary outputs on it. So there can be at least 6 different mixes that you can have in your own in-ears. That would be for more of like a practice space, but you can also record with it. So you can get 16 multi-channels. If you were at practice, you can record 16 channels all at once.
That's amazing. Okay, so for a live stream, would the digital mixer be essential, right? That's like an essential component of a live cast or whatnot, to have everything all in one, versus like trying to live stream through a computer and an interface. Like,
Yeah,
would
we've
that
had
even
our
be possible?
fair share of issues with that. Jeff and I have.
Yeah.
We,
And
we walked
Nick
through
Nick is
a lot
actually
of
the
time.
Twitch master because he streams on Twitch twice a
That's
week, right?
awesome.
So, yeah.
Twice a week. So he's
No.
streaming
Sorry,
live drums
4 times a week.
four times a
Sorry.
week. So streaming live drums is kind
Very
of nuts.
complicated.
Yeah,
Yeah, very
a lot
complicated.
of trial and error.
Yeah.
Cool. So we have a couple of options for interface, and then laptop. You said a certain amount of RAM.
Yeah, I'd say no less than 12 gigs of RAM.
Okay.
Because especially, I think 12 is the bare minimum. I have a 16 in my laptop, and I've never had an issue. I don't know if people with 12 are going to have an issue or not, but VSTs aren't super like your plugins and stuff. You're not going to be running a lot of that stuff. That's a tough one. I would say at least 12 though.
Okay, just to make sure everything goes smooth. Okay, cool.
And then I would say a solid state hard drive too would be great.
Okay.
Something that would be faster than a hard disk.
Let's talk about microphones. So what do you suggest as far as mics for people to use?
I missed the last part, Jeff. You kind of cut out.
Mics for people to use. Like we talked about So basically 3 categories: your snare mics, your overheads, and your toms.
Yeah. Okay, for snare, this is very typical that everyone does it, but the SM57, I think you can't go wrong with the 57. That's $100. That's not going to break the bank.
Hell yeah.
For toms, I use the Sennheiser E604s, and you can get a pack of 3 of those for about $350 at Sweetwater. You can probably get them on Reverb cheaper than that, but that goes for everything. And then overheads, I use the Rode NT5 pair, and those are a pencil condenser, and they need phantom power. So you need to make sure that your interface has phantom power, which the 1820 does have.
You said pencil something, and then you said phantom power. Can you explain what those 2 things are?
Well, yeah, pencil condenser is just a small, looks like it's bigger than a pencil, but it's a small diaphragm or large diaphragm mic in a small
like a tube
pattern. Yeah, it looks like a marker basically.
Okay, I feel like you were trying to say something else, but we'll keep it PC for the podcast.
But yeah, and so I was talking to Jeff yesterday about this too. But if you're going to be putting any money into anything drum wise, I would say go super cheap on the drum mics themselves if you're going to be replacing, like especially if you're going to be 100% replacing, but go big on the overheads, because the overheads, you're not going to get those sounds out. Like the overheads are picking up everything from your kit, and the drum mics you're going to be replacing, so they could be pieces of crap if you want, and you're
going to replace them with samples anyway.
Yeah. So if you're on a budget, go with something like the NT5s. Those are about $450 or $430. I looked them up today.
Okay.
And then spend like $100 on the rest of your mics for all I care.
So Nick recommended that I use a Samson pack because I was on a budget. Obviously, I wanted to buy everything at once. So I ended up spending like $1,500, but I got the interface, I got the cables, the stands. The Samson pack comes with 2 condensers, 3 tom mics, and a kick mic, and then I bought an SM57, and I think all that ran me $1,500. So, and I think the Scarlett 18i20 is actually $399. That's what I thought it was on. I don't think it's $499. I think it's $399. But I could be wrong. They could have raised the price, but it's definitely balling on a budget. It has phantom power. It has 8 channels. Very easy to use. Can we briefly talk about
other interfaces as well?
What's that?
Like you can so I have 16 inputs on mine. So I have a Scarlett 18i20, and then I have an Octo 3 as well. And so you can daisy chain them together.
Really?
To get 8 additional inputs. So I have 16 inputs on mine.
Yeah. Did you say you use the Octopre?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's pretty much what everybody does, because it's like we're talking. It's budget, but it's nice.
Yeah.
And
exactly. Yeah.
16.
Focusrite makes a lot of really good stuff that's not super expensive. You can go the PreSonus route and spend tons of money on great stuff. You can, if you're a billionaire, you can go get some Neve stuff. But if you're a mere mortal like most of us, Focusrite's really great,
right,
for affordable stuff.
Just for my own gratification, how do you daisy chain? Because I'm actually running into that problem with my 18i20 8 channel, and I want to have the bass in my ears while I play, but all my channels are used. So how do I get? Obviously, I got to buy another interface, but how do I connect them together?
Right. So the way that I connect mine together is I've got them stacked right on top of each other in my rack, and then they both have what's called an optical out, which
Yes.
is kind of hard to explain if you've never seen it, but it's like it's almost like a fiber optic cable kind of. But it's you can just look up optic cable and you can
Okay.
buy those off of any music site or Amazon or whatever, and
Just
they
plug
connect
one into the other.
exactly, and then
Okay.
your computer kind of registers them as one entity, if that makes sense.
Got it.
So like I don't have inputs 1 through 8 and then a second set of inputs 1 through 8. I have inputs 1 through 16. So in the computer, the ninth input is actually the first input on the octopre. So it just
Got it.
treats it as one single entity. It's really,
Got it.
really
Okay.
nice.
Okay.
Hey, real quick, I'm curious. Do you have to set that up via ADAT, or are you just
Yes,
is that
ADAT. Exactly.
What is
and then,
ADAT?
And then I also have them tied together with a word clock cable to make sure
Yeah.
there's no latency issues between them.
Yeah.
What is ADAT?
That's that's the cable. I was calling it an optical cable, but technically it's
That's
ADAT.
the official name for it. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, that's right.
So, last thing, and then we'll wrap up here is we talked about prepping for studio time, and I thought that was really good input. What is your experience as far as people coming in ready versus not ready? Like, what are your gripes, and then what are your tips on how to mitigate that?
Are you talking to me?
Yes, I'm talking to Nick,
Okay. Yeah,
not
see,
you,
this is
Right.
not you.
this is confusing. Okay.
Yeah.
I would just say that the biggest thing for me that I've had issues with in the past is just people not coming in knowing, the drummer specifically not coming in knowing how to play to a click. I think
Okay.
that it's
Oh God, yes.
That's real
yeah,
talk. It's real talk.
I think it's very important that they even if it's only them like, hey, we know we're going into the studio. From that point there until they get into the studio, that guy should be practicing with a click to his songs, preferably. And I think the whole band really should. I think that's the
Absolutely.
first thing that they should do.
Yeah.
That's going to save a lot of time in the studio, and it's going to save a lot of like quote unquote embarrassment for that drummer, because I've had several people come, I've never played to a click before. It's like, well, how do you expect to be on? How do you expect this to be tight if you didn't
Right.
plan on doing it to a click?
And you're
And
also
it's-
paying
and-
for that time, so you're
Yeah,
paying
yeah.
to waste everyone's time. So and I'm sure, even though you're getting paid, I'm sure that's not what you want to be doing. That's not the ideal scenario,
No,
to listen to
I'd much
somebody
rather
shit all
use-
over themselves musically for hours.
yeah, I'd much rather use that time for productive things and getting somewhere in the project, not like, oh, hold on, wait, how many beats is this? When do I
Yeah.
come in?
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that's a big one. And then I would just say, like, any sort of pre-pro that you can do beforehand, even if it's just recording it on your phone at practice, that's enough pre-pro for me to understand the song. And then maybe I can help with either transitions, if you need help with transitions, or just any sort of more knowledge that I can have, other than, hey, come in and then I'm going to hear drums for 8 hours and then have no context of what the song is for me to be like, oh, hey, I think you could do that fill better, or try this fill here, or whatever. You know what I mean?
Right.
There's just a lot that you could do with a little bit of pre-pro just by recording your practice at bare minimum. I think that I would appreciate that from any artist that wants to come in and work with me.
Because if you hear it or see it, then it'll click in your mind and you'll understand it. But if somebody's trying to explain it to you, it's like explaining what a painting looks like. It's like red, but it's not red. It's like dark red, and then it blends into like a white, and you're like, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Like if you see that, oh, you're like, okay. I look at, okay, that makes sense. You just see it, and then I think that happened with us too when we did our recording session way back when in Brent's basement, when you were still in Brent's basement. Are you still in Brent's basement?
Yeah, currently.
Okay, right, but there's been multiple upgrades, right? The vocal booth and everything like that.
Yep.
But when we were there, we had this wild song that had like 7 BPM changes, and one of them I didn't even know. It was like a 5/8 and 7/8, but it went like a third of the speed and then sped up again or slowed down again. And it was just crazy. And I can't explain that. I could play it on an acoustic guitar, but I can't explain it. So I think we ended up spending like an hour with you, like mapping out all the BPMs in Reaper and figuring all that shit out. So if you can have all that stuff figured out beforehand and say, hey, it goes 9/8, 5/8, 7/8, it's 172 BPM. There's a huge change in the bridge. The ending's wild. It's going to be free time. It's going to be a nightmare, blah, blah, blah. It's going to save you hours. It's going to save you time, money, energy, all that stuff.
Exactly. I think
Another thing I wanted to mention in regards to that is what Nick is talking about is engineers and producers will not only mix the album, they'll also have input on how, various aspects of the performance are, when you're playing. So a lot of times like if I'm a drummer and I'm playing a beat and the producer knows the song, like what Nick is talking about, and he has a vision of where he wants that song to go, and I play a drum fill that doesn't fit that vision, he can stop me and say, hey, hold on, that's a little too busy. Why don't you play something a little more quarter note focused, But if the producer doesn't know the song, then he can't, make those suggestions. So if you're able to come in and make the producer or make the engineer, like what Nick is talking about, really aware of the structure of the song and the vibe that you're going for, then they can really bring their full experience and knowledge to bear and help you shape that piece of music towards exactly where you want to go. You want to take advantage of their knowledge. And the best way to do that is to make them aware of exactly how it sounds.
Damn, bro. That's deep. I mean, at that point, I mean, if you're having somebody just completely crap the bed, I mean, it's like any creative input is going to be, let's just get the song laid down, like let's just try to get through this thing. We're not, creative input's probably the last thing on people's minds. But yeah, that's a really good point. If you have your shit together coming in, you're going to get a better finished product too, because then you can start polishing things as you go and say, okay, that kind of sounded a little trashy, or can we try like a couple different ideas as opposed to saying we've been, spinning our wheels for hours. Like, let's just get the song done and move on.
Right. Hey, I'll tell you this too. I think this is a little bit more like it's not really all that technically advanced, because number one, you can get Reaper for free forever. You don't ever have to pay for the damn thing if you don't want to. You can get free drum kit VSTs online for free, and you can look at videos on how to map drums in MIDI. If you could do that before you came in, that would be like so killer. Just map the drums in MIDI before you come in. They don't have to be exactly what you're going to play, but at least be like, oh, hey, we've already got this down. So we've got the tempo. We've got basically exactly what the drummers do. And okay, so me personally, I'm not a drummer. Jeff, you know this. Like, I feel like I understand drums to a pretty good degree since I'm a bass player. But I map all my band's drums. And then my drummer comes in and is like, okay, well, I wouldn't do this. Here's what I would do here. And then he will just fix what's there in the MIDI. And then later we'll either have him play through it or we'll just stick with the MIDI if it sounds better. Who knows? Like, that's me personally. I'm not saying that that's what everyone needs to do. But if you could map that stuff out, think of how much money you could save yourself just by taking your own time to do that.
Yeah.
Because, time is money. We all understand that. But if you're passionate about said thing, you can take if you're completely unaware of how any MIDI works or anything like that, take like an afternoon and go through YouTube. Kenny Joya, if you're going to look at anything from Reaper, look at Kenny Joya's videos, and you will learn like exponential things about stuff that you had no idea that you wanted to learn about. And you'll sit there for hours and you'll become like a more well-rounded person as a musician, if that's what you want to do. But yeah, I'd say mapping your MIDI out for drums would be killer. I've got a free VST if you want to check it out. It's MK Power Drums. I don't just Google MK Power Drums, and that's 100% free.
Awesome.
So that's awesome.
Yeah. Well, let's go over your information again. Now, just to be clear, I know you're in Iowa, but I mean, we still work together on a semi-regular basis. Like, because if somebody has Reaper, they could send you stems, and even if they don't have Reaper, they can still send you stems, and you can still.
Yeah.
So what are you able to offer remotely for new customers or new clients? However you.
I mean, the things that I've been having to. Nick, you might be having the same thing. I don't know if you're being more remote or whatnot, but I've had to turn away multiple clients in town because of COVID. Like, I just can't I can't bring people in. So.
Right.
A lot of what I would like, if you're asking me for like monetarily, I don't know. Like I can mix stuff that you can send me that. That doesn't get me off. I don't like doing that. Like
Okay.
I'm not really in it for the money per se. I'm more into like artist relations, being around people, helping them with their song, being in the studio. Like I just like being around people. I'm a people person.
Okay.
I would prefer that, or doing like what I do with you, where you're like, hey, I'm jazzed about this thing. Let's talk about it. I fucking love talking about audio. So
Okay.
like if people just want to geek out on audio and ask questions and we can bounce stuff off each other, send me a message go to Facebook, Wolfpack Productions, and send me a message. Be like, hey, I was wondering about this. What's your take?
Okay.
I would be down to do that. Like I'm super stoked on that.
Yeah,
But
I have to say from personal experience, Nick is excellent at troubleshooting, problem solving, process of elimination type of stuff. I know we went back and forth on Streamlabs trying to stream an eKit, and Nick had some input on that, and that was a nightmare with latency and things like that. But just basic Reaper stuff. If you want to get started out with Reaper, you want to get started out with your drum setup. I know that if you're cool with it, if people can book time and maybe do like a video or Skype session, and you can walk them through how to set up their interface and set up their mics, and maybe here's a couple of things to download, VSTs or whatever. Are you open to doing that?
Yeah, 100%. And also,
Cool.
I'm in the minority here, but I absolutely love drum edits. So if you got stuff that you need tightened up drum wise, send me those stems, and I'll charge you a minimal fee. But I love drum edits. It's my bread and butter. It's my favorite thing.
Excellent.
I want to mention something real quick. I honestly, I also find it to be really, really fun cleaning up somebody else's, less than perfect drum track, with quantization and stuff.
Hell yeah.
It's absolutely amazing what can be done with like modern DAWs, absolutely incredible. You can take something that was really badly performed, and if you're good at editing, you can make it sound great. And I just think that's awesome.
I mean, I took my kick mix, which was fucking god awful, because I have a Samsung. I have like one of the cheapest kick mics you can get, but also it's being played through this. Everything you've worked on for hours is probably being played through this. And even you're telling people, please use headphones. They're not using fucking headphones. They're playing through this speaker, which is garbage. Yeah. So you want to mix without headphones too, and that's a different conversation. But like one thing that I really love about our work together, Nick Barritt, is the kick triggers, the samples. Because I'm more of a old school person where I'm like, well, I want to hear the natural. Like I paid for the drums.
Yeah.
I tuned them well. I bought the heads. Like I take care of them. Like the mic's placed properly. Everything's mixed right. Like I want to see some return on that. No one gives a shit about any of that because they're listening on their phone. So when you trigger the kick, then you get that clickiness. You get that sound that kind of pops out on the phone speaker, and that's really important to have because those lower frequencies are just gone. Like some of those medium tom and low kick frequencies, like you have to have some sort of high click to be able to articulate on like Instagram, Facebook videos, and things like that. So it's a whole different world. Like what we've been talking about is mixing for Spotify, streaming services, putting it on YouTube, having people listen on their computers or in their cars or, on tracks like Bandcamp, shit like that. But on just Instagram or Facebook, that's a totally different ballgame. So definitely hit up Nick about triggers and samples.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Cool. Well, thanks, man. And once again, Wolfpack Productions on Facebook, correct? That's how they find you. That's the best way.
You got it.
Word.
Hey, and I want to say, hey, Nick,
yes.
Let's we should do this again sometime and nerd out for a minute when we have time.
Dude, I will sit here and talk with you about audio all day, man.
Yeah, it was nice meeting you, dude. I'm sorry we didn't get to talk much more, but I've got your Zoom now, so.
Cool. Awesome. Yeah, I'd love to get up with you again, man. It was a pleasure to meet you.
Yep, you too, brother. All right, I'll talk to you guys later.
Thanks again, man. Have a good one.
See ya.
All right, so I think that was super fascinating. Guys, thank y'all for watching with that.
Yeah.
Jeff did a good job putting all of this together. Using Yellow Duck here is pretty complicated, and Jeff did 99% of the legwork getting it to work right. So props to you, man. That was it's not super intuitive. It's not easy. So Jeff managed to figure out a lot of technical stuff to get this to work. So
no, it's a pleasure to do it. And I think there's a lot of good feedback, a lot of things that we probably don't think of when we're going in the studio. We probably don't think of when we're sitting here with just a drum kit. We're trying to connect the dots between how do I get to this from this drum kit to streaming to social media videos to recording in the studio to maybe I want to do it all myself. So I think this is a good start for people that don't have a clue where to begin. So there's a lot
Right.
of good insight. So
Yeah, very true. Yeah, it's
cool.
really interesting actually. That mapping stuff out with MIDI is not something I ever considered doing before going to a studio. I think that's very interesting.
Yeah, like giving your engineer a skeleton before you even play.
Exactly.
Again, it's like describing the work of art or looking at the work of art. It's two totally
Yeah,
different things
it's a great analogy. Yeah, it's
and
a great
can
analogy.
save people a bunch of time, save people a bunch of money, and you have bandwidth. Nobody can. I don't know anybody that can go in the studio for 12 hours straight and have a productive session. Like you need breaks, you need
Yep.
to eat, you need to use the bathroom, you need to step away and recenter. We're drumming, so it's a workout. Our joints are hurting, our backs
Yeah.
are hurting. It's depending on the temperature. We're getting stressed out. You want to be as prepped as you can before you go in there to not have those issues or to try to get around those issues for sure.
Yeah, that's all excellent points. I agree.
Cool. Well, thank you everybody for tuning in, and this will be on YouTube. So have a great night.
All right. See you later, Jeff.